Warning: SirRodCast can lead to an array of side effects. Symptoms like nausea, vomiting, explosive diarrhea, sudden distaste for previously loved foods, and an inexplicable headache might emerge, persistently nagging like a bad song stuck in your head. Prolonged SirRodCast exposure, you might find yourself breaking out with rashes, skin blisters or peels, or developing a sudden wheeze, all of which signal a red alert. In such cases, halt all consumption of SirRodCasts and seek immediate medical attention. SirRodCast is not for the faint of heart. Proceed with caution and always keep your healthcare provider on speed dial for any unexpected misadventures.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce you to one of the nation's most exciting entertainers. He is the former creative director for So Deaf Recordings. He has one of the best-selling artist development books, The 10 Commandments of the Stage. All the way from Atlanta, Georgia, put your hands together for the Star Maker, Mr. One-Man Show, Ollie Patterson's baby boy. Give it up for Sir Rod Patterson.
Yes! We're back. Welcome to another episode of the SirRodCast. I'm your host, Sir Rod Patterson. Look, we got a lot of stuff to get into. I want to get through it so we can keep it moving. Oh, we're going to have a good time today. I hope everything is going well with you out there in, I would like to say radio world, but that'd be kind of old school. So cyber world. Listen. When I first started this endeavor, I was a little ambitious. My mom said my eyes were bigger than my stomach. I bit off more than I can chew. I didn't realize how much work it goes into putting this thing together. See, Sir Rod couldn't just be like everybody else and just do an audio podcast. I have to do a video podcast. So it's a lot involved in just producing this. I originally wanted to do this thing twice a week. And I did the first week. And then going into the second week, it's like, oh my God, because there's a lot. I am a one-man operation right now. So I'm building the team, but right now, the video, the editing, the promo, all that other stuff, I'm doing. So it's a little more undertaking. And to do it to the level that Sir Rod wants to do it on, I have to, it has to be a certain quality for me. So what we're going to do is, what I can promise you is that every Friday, once a week for right now, and once I get my roll on, I may add another segment in, or another episode in, twice a week. And then once I get my team, who knows, maybe even 3 times a week. But right now, every Friday, I can't promise everything, but I can promise that we can at least get one in. I want to thank you for all the people who've been reaching out to me and all the warm support and just all the correspondence. I want to thank you guys. It really means a lot. We got a lot of stuff coming around the corner. So just stay tuned and be patient with me. Especially my friends out there. Y'all be patient with me, and I'll try to get all your information that you're sending to me in when I can. But for right now, we're going to keep it moving to our very first segment of the day. And that is, the next segment is Nothing Else Better to Do. Yeah, nothing else better to do. Now, today's Nothing Else Better to Do segment is going to be, I'm going to be sharing with you from my book. A lot of you don't know this, but I am an author. Matter of fact, I'm a 7-time author. And my newest book is called If I Only Had a Brain, The Gift of Dyslexia. Now, I said this in an earlier video that I posted on YouTube. A lot of people don't know that I have dyslexia. But I don't say that like in a negative way. There's a lot of very big people that have dyslexia. Matter of fact, all the Shark Tanks, all the Shark Tank, not all of them, but most of them on the Shark Tank has dyslexia. A lot of people didn't know that. Whoopi Goldberg, she was just did a segment on her show on The View, was talking about she went to read at her granddaughter's school. They had her come in for a reading, and the school knows that she deals with dyslexia, and she went in and had a discussion with how she deals with dyslexia. And so my book, If I Only Had a Brain, kind of dives into that subject. And I got some advice from watching a documentary on Arnold Schwarzenegger. And his father used to give him some advice that kind of stuck with me that I just really loved. His father used to tell him all the time, if you don't do nothing else, above all, be useful. Above all, be useful. And that's what I try to be, is useful. Even in this podcast or my posts, anything attached to the SirRod brand, I try to be useful. If I'm not doing anything but just making you smile, I feel that's useful. Or help you to forget about your day for just a second, useful. So that's what all my books are. They're self-help books. This book, If I Only Had a Brain, The Gift of Dyslexia, is basically helping young people, especially kids that are dealing with it in school, because I went through it. You know, I was in the SLD classes, the slow learning classes, and I struggled to, as a slow reader, it's just like, it is horrible. And it's hard for me to describe to people, for a person who want to read a book. I look at books like cake. I want to read it so bad and I can't. And it aggravates me to see people who have normal brains just read. And I go into my book and I say something, tell a story about visiting a radio station. And in the radio station, I was a friend of mine, a DJ, and he's just reading off this script. They're just flowing. And then I see the news people on the evening news, and I can see their eyes flicking back and forth. And I know they're just reading this information live. And I'm just like, wow. Like the straw man in the Wizard of Oz. If I only had a brain, I could do that. And I actually had to turn down a job at a radio station. They offered me a job at a radio station doing a gospel morning show in my hometown, St. Petersburg, Florida, WRXB. It was going to let me do a morning show. And I couldn't do it. I turned it down because I knew this dyslexia and me reading, it wouldn't have been a real good situation. But like the straw man, and I realized, it took me years later to realize that just like the straw man, he actually had intelligence. It just wasn't the kind of intelligence that he was focusing on. See, he was the operations. He gave all the best suggestions to Dorothy and the gang. And so in the same way with me, people with dyslexia, they just learn differently. It was an old saying, God don't make no junk. God doesn't make any junk. So I just learned differently. And so I figured out I had to teach myself how to learn. And so that's what my book is sharing with young people and people of what age. It doesn't matter what age they are. If you're dealing with dyslexia, I've accumulated some tricks and hacks and then some encouragement. Just because you learn differently don't mean that you're dumb. That means a lot of time gifted. It's kind of like a blind man where he can't see, but he can smell and he can hear like a bat. He can hear. So it's the same thing with the gift of dyslexia. You become hyper gifted in other areas. For me, it's art and visual and audio. So anyway, that's what the book is all about. And because I want to share that with you guys on Nothing Else Better to Do, because I had nothing else better to do. And that ends this segment of program. This brings us to the next segment. See, we're going to knock them all out today. We just going to ease right on to it. The next segment is, all right, the next section of program is the good news section of the program. Oh, we got a couple good news things I want to share with you today. First, I wanted to share with you a touching thing I read on Facebook. It was a post someone had posted about the late great now Robin Harris, the comedian. They said that if this was true, I'm gonna have to do my research. They said that every movie that he played in, he insisted that at least 10 homeless people be employed for the project, meaning he gave hundreds, if not thousands of jobs to homeless people. If that's true, God bless. Oh my goodness. That is a wonderful thought. Wow. And if it isn't true, that's a good thought. Just saying. Yeah, just saying. All right. The good news for today. What we got? The first bit of news is from the Good News Network. Or you can Google it. It's a whole network. But the one thing that stood out to me today is Brightline high-speed railway just broke ground for a high-speed train to go from Vegas to LA and vice versa, 200 miles per hour. So who knows how long that trip is going to take? Maybe an hour, if that. It's going to save a lot of emissions, which, they have a lot of smog problems with LA with all that traffic. So every little bit helps. But just bringing a high-speed train to the U.S., that's big. I was in South Korea. I had to go speak to some kids back in 2019 at Camp Humphreys military base. And my liaison there, I had dinner with him, his wife, and his daughter. And in the evening time, we were sitting down, we were drinking some coffee, and we stepped in the back of his condo where he was there in Korea. And it was a lot of land, flat land. But then over the distance, I saw something just moving. I couldn't explain what it was. And it looked like a train, but I wasn't exactly sure. It was a high-speed line. So I've seen that's big. Let's give LA a big round of applause. Good luck. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the next part of the program, and that is Numbers Talk. Numbers Talk. This is part two of the story of the 333 story. If you missed any of it, you got to go back to the last episode for part one of why the numbers 333 is so significant to me. We ended part one of me finding out that it was really God's number. Now, once I found out that it was God's number, it was some interesting revelations came to me, because I originally started off by telling you about St. Petersburg, Hilton, and Towers and why that is important. And after a long stint of not being able to find employment, I ended up working at this hotel and then started seeing these numbers. Well, come to find out after about 4 years in, not even paying attention to it, I found out that the address of this particular hotel was 333 First Street South, St. Petersburg, Florida. 333 First Street South, St. Petersburg, Florida. And it had 333 rooms in it. That was part of why they named it that. 333 rooms, 333 First Street South. And they had a restaurant, 333 Brew. I don't know what it was, 333 restaurant. But that was like mind blowing. And so I've been working there. I'm seeing the threes. The hotel name is address is 333 First Street. It kind of put me on a path. And then I go on to tell inside my book, 333 and Me, how three angels appeared to me. I call them my three angels. I had worked there for about 4 years, and over different incidents, some strange things would happen. As an example, one of the main elevators were down. Only one elevator was working. They had four, but only one was working. And then the freight elevator was working. that elevator always was tied up because all the maids and the maintenance people are using that one freight elevator. So as a bellman, I would check the guest in. I would tell them to go ahead to their room, and I would meet them there. Well, this one gentleman, distinguished gentleman, came in. I told him, go ahead. I checked him in, greeted him, told him to go ahead to his room. He was in a suite, like on the 13th floor. That's all the upper crust up in the 13th floor. I told him I have his bag. Give me a minute. I'll be right there. So while he's waiting to get that one elevator, instead of me taking the freight elevator, I took the stairs up, carrying his bags to the 13th floor. I was young, strong. But anyway, by the time he got his elevator, got there, I was waiting for him at his door. And he was so impressed because he thought it was going to be some weight. He needed something out of this. He needed this stuff. But anyway, he was so impressed with that. Before he gave me my tip, he says, Rod, you're so outgoing. You're so articulate. Why are you here? You need to be in Atlanta. This guy didn't know me anything, and he was Caucasian. So back then, Atlanta was big in the African-American world, but the Caucasian people really didn't know too much about it. I tried to avoid Atlanta because I didn't just want to be a part of a fad. Never was. If people go that way, I go the opposite. And then this happens like 2 more times. 2 more distinguished gentlemen, Caucasian. Rod, you're so articulate. You're outgoing. Why are you here? You should be in Atlanta. This 3rd time, after the 3rd time, I said, I'll look into this Atlanta thing. And so one day, out of the blue, I said, what the hey thing. And I happened to look in our little hotel directory, and I looked under the Atlanta section, and I noticed that they had an Atlanta Hilton in Towers. And it was like one of the only ones I saw. I was at the St. Pete Hilton in Towers. They had an Atlanta Hilton in Towers. Hey, wow, that's what a coincidence. So they had the number there. I called. I had some downtime. I called. And when I did call, the bell captain picked up. And me and him talked, and we talked bellman talk, how much you make, this and that, yada, yada. We talked, and we made him laugh. He made me laugh a little. And then he said, strange thing that you would call because we got 2 openings. If you could get here, I'd love to interview you for a job. I said, what the heck? I rented a car, drove to Atlanta, interviewed with him, came back. As soon as I got back, I got a phone call from the gentleman, the bell captain, said, Rod, I love you. Would hire you on the spot, but this is such a trusted position. You need to come back and interview with the GM, the general manager. So next week, I rented another car, drove back to Atlanta, interviewed with the GM, and came back home. And when I came back home, I got a call, said, Rod, we'll give you the job. You can start in 30 days. And the 3rd time I came to Atlanta, I had all my belongings with me and moved to Atlanta. And then I'll let you know the next part of the story, what happened with how 333 led me to Atlanta and to how I'm doing and what I'm doing now with motivational speaking on the 3rd segment on the next episode of Numbers Talk. That concludes for the day. Next episode, final conclusion. And that brings us into
Sir Rod, what you're doing. Hey, Sir Rod, what you doing? What you're doing, Sir Rod?
What is Sir Rod doing? Oh, we got a few things. This is the Sir Rod What You Doing segment. We got quite a few things on the plate here. First, I got 3 things I want to share with you. The first thing, coming up May 4th, this Saturday in Tucker, Georgia, I will be performing. Sir Rod the Entertainer will be performing at the Railroad Avenue stage in Tucker, Georgia, doing a Motown review. Show starts at, I say get there at 1. We'll probably start about 1:15, but get there early. It's a festival thing and it's free. So you got to get to parking and all that stuff, but it's going to be fun. If you never caught a SirRod show, the SirRod the Entertainer, that's a good time to catch him. And it's for free. And miss that. And the next little bit of what SirRod is doing, I'm going to be doing something with the SirRod and the Blues Doctors. We're getting ready to do a summer tour in July. We're going to be out on the road for about 2 weeks. So as these shows come in, I'll just start announcing them, and then I'll make one big rundown once they all come in. But in the meantime, it never hurts. They'll give you the heads up in the areas that you might live in. We might be coming your way. The next stop, SirRod and the Blues Doctors will be heading up to Fredericksburg, Virginia, July 18th. We'll be at Six Bears and a Goat Brewing Company. Six Bears and a Goat Brewing Company. It has significance. I think it's a military code with those six bears and the goat thing. We played there one time before. So if you're in the area, we'll be there on July 18th. Show starts about 6:30. Get there early, get in, get your seat. Come out, shake my hand. That's right. Fredericksburg, Virginia, coming your way. And the final thing I'm going to share with you today, SirRod and the Blues Doctors are doing at this point, Saturday, July 27th. SirRod and the Blues Doctors will be at the Blue Canoe. That is in Tupelo, Mississippi. Showtime starts at about 9. The boys, the Blues Doctors, played there earlier this year. They said it's a really nice venue. Come on out. If you're anywhere near the vicinity, come on out. Shake my hand. We're going to have a good time. I don't know if you ever caught a SirRod and the Blues Doctors show. It's not your average show. So come on out. Shake my hand. And that's what SirRod is doing. And this brings us to...
Hear ye, the joke of the day. Hear ye, the joke of the day. It is time for the joke of the day. Hear ye.
All right, before we get into the next segment, we have some very important business to take care of. I try to squeeze this in every episode that I can. All right, backed by popular demand, millions upon millions of requests, it is time for the joke of the day. Yeah, joke of the day. Because it's very serious business, I have to put my glasses on because I will be reading. And dyslexic reading at that. That's how much I love you guys. From my joke Bible, Joketopia, the joke of the day. What happened when the pig couldn't get up from his fall? What happened when the pig couldn't get up from his fall? What happened when the pig couldn't get up from his fall? He called the ham-a-lance. Ham-a-lance. Get it? Ham-a-lance. See, they mixed ham with ham-a-lance. Ham-a-lance. Yeah. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the joke of the day, ham-a-lance. This brings us to our final section of the program. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for all your time. I want to share with you, just recap a little bit. Earlier, I shared with you about my book, If I Only Had a Brain, The Gift of Dyslexia. Now, a lot of people, especially on this internet or the cyber world, everybody want to present a perfect picture, a perfect world, if you will. And that's just not me. I like to have fun. I like to laugh at myself. More importantly, I want people to know that they're not the only one going through something or struggling. And not that you're less than something because you can't perform or do like everyone else. See, I'm a firm believer that God doesn't make any junk. You are the way you're supposed to be. And this brain is amazing. It can do a million different things, but it's not a carbon copy. Everybody's not a complete duplicate. They want you to think that everybody's a complete duplicate, but no. So a lot of time, the people in this cyber world like to present perfection, and that simply does not exist. Perfection does not exist. That's a myth, a nasty rumor. I try not to let ego get in the way, because ego to me is a very evil thing. It causes wars. It causes man to think he could do things that he can't do. That's why I don't like motorcycles. Motorcycles is an ego enhancer. It makes you think that you're Superman on those motorcycles, and people find out that they're not. So ego boosters and ego can be very dangerous. It also could be a good thing. It takes a little ego to do a podcast. It takes a little ego to step out on a stage and to perform. But you have to keep everything in balance and in check. So that's why I like sharing all my parts of me, not just the perfect part. Because Lord knows I'm not perfect. And if you ever read through any of my posts, my friend, my homeboy Mike, he sent me a text. Rod, you got to let me proofread your stuff, and all kind of typos. But see, that's not my brand. I'm not trying to strive for perfection. I'm just trying to bring a little light in a very, very dark place. I know what I'm competing against. It's hard to make some noise in this world without doing some, I refuse. I won't be putting people down or talking about people or laughing at people, because you can't pick and you can't laugh at people, ladies and gentlemen. You can't, because believe it or not, we are all made from the same pot of stew. Yeah, we are all made from the same pot of stew. It is foolish for someone to look over at one person and laugh. I would never, ever do that. Under the right conditions, under the right upbringing, under the right tragedies, mishaps, you'd be surprised what you might do. So I try not to laugh at people. I try to learn. Don't laugh. I try to learn. And if I can help them, I'll help them. And if sometimes it's too late, and if it's too late, then the least thing you could do from their tragedy is learn. Those are just my thoughts. I might be right. I might be wrong. It's just my thoughts. You let me know. And speaking of you let me know, ladies and gentlemen, before I close up here, reach out to your boy, SirRodCast, gmail.com, SirRodCast, all your correspondence, all your emails, but this is just my thoughts, SirRodCast at gmail.com. Peace.